At some point on the path of awakening, perhaps after a profound spiritual breakthrough or a personal breakdown, something shifts. You glimpse the illusion of identity, the endless noise, and for a moment, there is silence, powerful, liberating silence. Yet slowly, almost imperceptibly, that sense of meaning dissolves. Life feels muted, as if someone turned down the volume on your soul. You stop chasing. You stop caring. Not recklessly, but with a quiet, existential sigh. And then the unsettling question emerges. Why do I feel so numb now that I finally see the truth? We often imagine spiritual awakening as a fire that will fuel passion and clarity. But for many seekers, empaths, and introspective souls, the opposite unfolds. Awakening empties rather than ignites. I once spoke with a friend who had absorbed all the great teachings, Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, Krishnamurti. After a dark night of the soul, she broke through. She saw through the illusion of ego and external striving. But within months, she could barely get out of bed. She told me, I used to cry over not achieving enough. Now I don't care whether I do anything at all. I thought awakening would light me up, not leave me like this. This paradox is not new. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, hinted at it long before spirituality became mainstream. He famously wrote, "Enlightenment doesn't come by imagining figures of light but by making the darkness conscious." Awakening is not the triumphant end of the journey, it is the beginning of a psychological death. The old structures, ambitions, relationships, even time itself, collapse. What many mistake for depression is something else, a sacred limbo. The ego has lost its map, but the self has not yet revealed a new one. Jung believed this in-between was not a failure, but an essential rite of passage. The collapse of ego-based motivation. Most of us spend our lives motivated by the ego, the mask Jung called the persona. We strive for success, love, validation, and security. This is not inherently wrong, it is part of human development. But awakening strips away the mask. Suddenly, the goals that once mattered feel irrelevant, like lines in a play that no longer fits the character you've become. This is why so many people report feeling unmotivated after awakening. It's not that the drive is gone, it's that the old fuel no longer works. You didn't lose motivation, you outgrew it. Jung named the deeper process individuation, the integration of the fragmented self into a whole, authentic being. This is not the small self that craves approval, but the soul-centered self that seeks truth. To make space for this transformation, the psyche often shuts down the old motivational system entirely. The sacred pause in a culture obsessed with productivity, stillness is often misdiagnosed as laziness. But Jung warned that this pause, the enantiodromia, when things swing into their opposite, is sacred. The pendulum moves from frantic striving to stillness, from "I must do everything" to "why do anything at all?" This stage has been described in myth as the hermit's retreat, the cocoon where the caterpillar dissolves before rebirth. It's messy, confusing, and profoundly uncomfortable. The ego panics, craving action and identity. But the self whispers, "Let go." Something deeper is being built. Modern spirituality often skips this part. It preaches, "high vibes only," or "follow your joy," bypassing the shadow work that Jung insisted was essential. Real growth requires integrating the darkness, reclaiming the repressed, and allowing the unconscious to rise. This void is not a breakdown, it is a metabolizing process. Your psyche is digesting old identities and preparing for new life. The return of soul-led motivation. When we stop resisting the void, something subtle begins to stir. Motivation returns, but it feels different this time. It is not frantic or performative. It is not driven by fear of missing out or the hunger for validation. It is quieter, older, like remembering rather than chasing. Jung called this the emergence of the self, the soul's inner compass. This is not about clarity in the traditional sense but about resonance. Instead of forcing life, you begin to respond to it. Instead of hustling, you follow what feels aligned. This shift doesn't erase fatigue, confusion, or grief. Those are part of being human. But it does end the constant sense of inner betrayal that comes from living a life that doesn't fit. You start saying no to things that look good on paper but feel wrong in your body. You follow curiosity instead of checklists. You choose peace over performance. This is living symbolically, as Jung described it, not in fantasy, but in soul. You begin to trust dreams, synchronicities, and inner nudges as guidance. Ordinary life becomes infused with meaning. A new kind of ambition living from the self doesn't kill ambition, it transforms it. The drive to impress becomes devotion to truth. Action flows not from pressure but from alignment. And ironically, this deeper energy gets things done more effectively than ego-driven hustle ever could, because it is sustainable. You may find yourself creating, teaching, serving, or healing, not because you should, but because your whole being says yes. The beginning, not the end. If you feel like your spark has dimmed after awakening, remember, the old fire had to burn out to make space for a deeper flame. Jung never promised an easy path. Awakening is not the final destination, it is the threshold into becoming. This journey asks us to embrace stillness, integrate shadow, and trust the void. It is here, in the silence, that the self begins to guide us. Awakening is not about getting back your old motivation. It is about discovering a new one, rooted not in performance, but in wholeness. And that is where the real story begins.